This is the Dogecoin 1 month overview reading for the month of March 2024. It's currently January 24th, 2024, 6:19 p.m. Eastern Time. Dogecoin at the time of this reading is currently 0.0787485, or just under 8 cents USD. The shuffle video for the Dogecoin March reading, which created on January 8th, 2024 at 8:44 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video here in the corner. The overall theme and behavior for Dogecoin in the month of March is a sideways fluctuating decline that precedes a notable rally on a 1-year chart scale. It's crossed, however, with the universe card, which is the biggest decline card of the deck, usually indicating like in this case, it would be a crypto-wide kind of decline going on, or maybe a greater, like a market-wide decline. What I've seen in a lot of the March readings is that there's a high towards the very beginning of the month and lows towards the end. There's likely a sharp move to the upside at some point here in the month because of that Empress card indicating that sideways fluctuating decline preceding a rally. And then move to the upside, we'll have to see if we can identify where it is as we go through the reading. Behavior around the highest high will most likely have at least two highs for Doge in the month of March. That's because the Queen of Cups usually indicates a sideways S formation within a channel. You go from a resistance and decline down to a support, reverse, go all the way back to that resistance, reverse, and go retrace all the way back to that support, creating a sideways S or two declines with an incline in between. And that'll be the behavior around the highest high. Behavior around the lowest low for the month. We'll have a fast sudden move higher standing out on a 1-year chart scale out of the lows of the month. There's also a cross-reading congruency there that we'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. So overall, it looks like a pretty mixed month, especially when you take into account that as far as cross-reading congruencies, we're on track on March, and this looks much more bullish on the 1-year of this March reading. So we've got a pretty mixed March going on here. The whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. You go to the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and 5% of the profits from every profitable trade utilizing this information should be donated forward to one of these charities, or pick a charity of your choosing as long as you're paying 5% forward, and then 5% should be sent back to the channel through one of these links. If you're international, you can use Wise or you can use YouTube tips. And that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. So let's get back into it. Before we continue, I want to make sure anybody that's new to the channel understands that each card going left to right across the screen is numbered with the date of the day of the month. What's important to understand is that not each card's energy will necessarily line up perfectly with one day of time. There will be cases in some readings where you have to give the timing of the highs and the lows plus or minus a day here of wiggle room, here or there. And that's because the energies don't always line up perfectly with one day of time. But for the most part, the timing will be on point. Just make sure to trade responsibly, never bet the house, and you should be pretty good to go. On the first, we have an important resistance level on a multi-day chart, on a 1-month chart scale minimum that's highlighted, and usually you flatten out around that price level. We should see some decline from that resistance, and we'll most likely revisit an important trough on a multi-day scale there towards the end of the day on the 6th. Looks like we have a pretty big move to the upside on the 2nd. Pretty big move to the upside on the 2nd to a key resistance. It's actually like a move higher that starts out of a decline and goes from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range at the end of the day on the 2nd, where we most likely have a prominent high on a 1-month scale. And then on the 3rd, we most likely have a prominent high again there on the 3rd. There should be a lot of movement there to the upside for distant resistance. It may be that peak on the 2nd at the end of the day on the 2nd is combined with the peak early in the day on the 3rd. It might be one peak there on the cusp with the 2nd, 3rd. A lot of price change covered on the 3rd. Looks like we declined pretty notably into an important trough at the end of the day on the 4th, where we attempt to establish support with some sideways rotation. Pretty notable decline off of that high there. A lot of price change to the upside from that prominent trough at the end of the day on the 4th into a prominent peak on the cusp of the 5th, 6th at an important resistance level. And that'll be an important resistance level on a multi-day scale. That crest will form a trading opportunity. This will be actually our 3rd trading opportunity in the month that I see, and we'll talk about those obviously in more detail in the paid version. But here at that crest on the cusp of the 5th, 6th, at that peak or crest, that should be near overbought territory, and we should sell off pretty notably from that through multiple support levels. Some bearish price swinging going on the 7th. We likely see a prominent peak in there on the 7th that'll stand out on a 1-month scale. And whatever rally we might see in the midst of that bearish price swinging, that should be halted pretty notably on the 7th or 8th with a sharp universal decline into an important trough there at the end of the day on the 8th, probably even lower on the 9th. A decline there from the 8th into the 9th that'll really stand out on a multi-day scale or on a 1-month scale, 1-month chart scale. Peak at the end of like on the cusp of the 9th, 10th after a notable move higher on a 1-day chart or on a multi-day chart. Notable reversal on the 10th. We should see a prominent trough on a 1-month chart and then a prominent crest or peak on the 11th on a 1-month chart that we sell off from pretty notably through multiple support levels into another prominent trough in the morning on the 12th. Likely a sharp decline there that you want to be careful not to get there's some sort of intentional fake out or shakeout on the 12th where you likely could do the wrong thing, something impulsive. Fake out, shake out around the 11th, 12th, hard to say. But that decline, then we do sideways rotation. We decline on the 13th, 2 and 3 support, meet another support, and we rotate sideways along that support. We should see a trough on the cusp of the 13th, 14th. The 14th is actually a pretty interesting cross-reading congruency, right, with the high card correlator. I'm not necessarily seeing a high for the year here, but we are revisiting a crest on a 1-year chart scale here in the midst of erratic behavior back and forth near the high. We revisit a crest that was recently a past opportunity, and we just saw highs for the year in February, it looks like. So there's a good chance that we're seeing highs for the year again. This might be a high for the year here. We'll talk about that in more detail, but there's a cross-reading congruency that I want to talk about in the paid version right here with the Sorrow card. This might indicate another high here, but a lot of the readings we're already off of a pretty sharp decline and a high around the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th-ish. In any case, there's a possibility of that. We have 3 pokes through the same price level followed by a sharp decline off of that 3rd poke, and that takes us probably into oversold territory, out of which we have a notable move higher on the 15th to the upside that will really stand out on a 1-month chart, taking us to a prominent peak on the 16th, which forms when we move higher, and then we have a full retracement of that move back down there. It'll be like a V shape there, an upside down V shape on a chart there on the 16th. Possible day trade opportunity as well. And I'll continue with this and get into the remainder of the daily chart behavior, as well as where the highest highs and lowest lows are most likely to be after we review the reading that we did for January. Let's take a look, see how we're doing thus far. So we had a high here on the first second, and you can see that we nailed that first second, even on the third high, and then we go into prominent trough on the third, fourth. It's pretty solid. Back into a prominent peak. I have it as a highest high, not a highest high, and then a sharp drop off of the fifth, which you can see that was a pretty significant drop. That's a unicursal kind of deal. We come back to another prominent peak on the, I have for the 6th, 7th, so that's a little bit off, but we also have it on the 8th, and then a prominent trough on the 9th. I have a lowest low thus far on like the 8th, 9th, and you can see it took place here on the 8th, 9th. That's pretty solid. Prominent peak on the 10th ends up being on the 11th, although we have actually a cross-reading congruency. See, that's a case of a cross-reading congruency where it didn't line up perfectly, but we do have this prominent peak on the 10th, 11th, and so that's pretty solid. Back into lowest lows thus far on the 15th. Looks like we're close, but not quite. And then we go into lower lows on the 18th, 19th. You can see right there we nailed that, followed by a highest high on the 24th, 25th. Looks like we were a little late on that, and it wasn't quite a highest high. It came close. So far, this is pretty, I give this probably accuracy in the 90s. We were a little bit off on the highs here on the 6th, 7th. Again, we were a little bit late on this 24th, 25th. But aside from that, we did pretty solid. And if we were looking at significant trades, you would have cashed out of long positions, or entered into short positions, I should say, based on that unicursal there on the second. You would have entered into short position, and then you would have closed that short position most likely on the 4th, on the 3rd, 4th. You would have made a solid amount of money there, guys, following the paid versions tips on trading. And then on the 5th, you would have opened up a short position. You would have closed that short position on the 9th, 8th, 9th. You would have made a solid amount of money there. Probably would have opened up a long position on the 9th. Might have been a little bit late on that entry, but you would have closed it on the 11th and you would have made money there, 11th or 12th. You would have opened up a short on the 12th and closed that short on the 15th, or actually it doesn't say to close it on the 15th. It says to close it on the 16th. And then if I was wrong about the 16th, to close it on the 18th or the 19th. So what happened on the 16th? You would have made money on the 16th. And then in that case, you would have opened up a long on the 19th. And the very next day, on the 20th or the 21st, I should say, you would have been able to close that long for a solid amount of gain. This is, as far as the trades, guys, this was like pretty much solid reading. If you're interested in getting a paid version of the Dogecoin reading, guys, it's really the best way to support the channel. What you get in that paid version is all of the best trades that we see, the timing of those throughout the month, what to look for as far as entry and exit, as far as chart behavior for those trades. And then you get the trades on a multi-month basis, a multi-year basis, if they're relevant, and any price level information as well. You get the paid version here under our services, SO Meta Posts. Scroll down to monthly subscription, click here to order. And for Dogecoin, you're going to subscribe here, right here to Doge, or if you're interested in more than just Doge paid version, I highly recommend the all paid version. It gives you access to Amazon, Google, Nvidia, and the ticker symbols and cryptos all listed here, all for $250 a month. Super undervalued considering you can't get this information anywhere else, and we run roughly a 98% average accuracy. So with that said, thank you to everybody that goes ahead and purchases that monthly subscription. Without those subscribers, we would not be able to put out this content regularly. Let's get back into it and finish off the public version. All right, so that move higher on the 16th, followed by that full retracement back down on the 16th, creating a prominent peak. Decline continues into the 17th, where we most likely have another prominent trough. We see sideways rotation along that prominent trough at key support. Between that trough on the 17th and somewhere on the 18th, there's a prominent peak, and then a decline that increases with momentum off of that prominent peak. Sideways rotation again along key support on the 19th. That ends with a fast sudden move higher. We do like sideways fluidity, equal amounts of bulls and bear inflow and outflow, basically moving sideways on the 20th along key support, and then there's a prominent trough on the cusp of the 21st. On the 21st, we have another move higher that'll sit on a 1 month chart, breaking through resistance, staying above it briefly, and then breaking back down through it with a full retracement of that move higher, back down through that same price level. And then that'll take us into a U-shaped dip on the 22nd with another prominent trough on a 1 month scale there midday. For the peak on the cusp of the 22nd, 23rd, there's another notable decline, and then a notable move to the upside on the 24th to a prominent peak on a 1 month scale on the cusp of the 24th, 25th. Pop and drop on the 25th, failed attempt to break through key resistance on the 26th, followed by a decline to key support, taking us into another prominent trough on the 27th. Significant trade opportunity there. I'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version. Peak on the cusp or early in the day on the 20th. With a lot of price change to the downside off of that peak there on the 20th, the 28th. A lot of price change to the downside, sharp decline continuing into the 29th. On the 30th, we have bumping along resistance sideways. On the 31st, sideways rotation along key support on a multi-day scale. And then we have an important support on a 1 year chart scale that's highlighted in April. We'll talk about that in more detail when we get into the April reading. My friends, that's, and then as far as where the highest highs and the lowest lows are, very highest, the strongest probability for the March high being on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, somewhere around there. Very strong likelihood of it being there. There's a possibility of revisiting it somewhere between the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, somewhere in there. Likely that we revisit it, or it's just another prominent peak. And then as far as lowest lows, we have our first lowest low around the 4th, 5th. It'll act as a lowest low thus far. We see it again, I think, probably around the 9th. Very likely we see it again on the 12th. And then we very likely go into lower lows on the 17th and or on the 22nd, with our lowest low being around the somewhere between the 26th, 28th. I'm leaning towards the 27th, but it might be that we revisit it twice. And then we likely go into another low first thing, like on the cusp of the March, April, like somewhere right around there. That's Dogecoin for March 2024, my friends. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps out the channel. And most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go. You know what to do. It's the whole purpose of the channel. Thank you so much to all that 3% of you that go ahead and do that. Blessings to you and all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version.